Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. Today I'm going to recap last night's Monday Night Football game between the Bears and the Patriots. We'll go over the NBA and NHL games from last night, look ahead to tonight's games in each sport, NFL Power Rankings for Week 8, Dancing with the Stars recap, news and notes, and best bet. All right, we'll start with football. It was a very unexpected result last night, to say the least, as the Chicago Bears came out on top over the New England Patriots by a score of 33-14. The Bears improved to 3-4 on the year. New England drops to 3-4. Justin Fields 13-21, 179 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and Bailey Zappi 14-22, 185 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. After Mac Jones was benched after going 3 of 6, 13 yards, and throwing a pick. So neither Patriot quarterback played well in this game. Probably the franchise's worst regular season loss since the infamous Monday night game in Kansas City, which led to Bill saying on the Cincinnati. And there was a Sunday night game at home against the Bengals in which they were an underdog in, and they destroyed Andy Dalton and the Bengals on that Sunday night. So we'll see what happens against the Jets. This is bad for the Jets that New England did this. Or it could be. I don't want to say it is. But then again, the Jets just, we'll get into them in news and notes. But, and then the power rankings too. But, if New England goes out and kicks ass next week, then, obviously, the Jets are going to be in trouble. So, that's that. We'll move on to the NBA now. We'll go over last night's results and look ahead to the games being played tonight. 76ers over the Pacers, 120-106. Sixers are 1-3, so is Indiana. James Harden, 29 points, 9 boards, and 11 assists. So 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. Tyrese Halliburton had 19 and 10 assists. Raptors over the Heat, 98-90. Raptors 2-2, Miami 1-3. Fred VanVleet, 24 points, 9 assists. Jimmy Butler, 26 and 4 assists. Knicks over the Magic, 115-102. Best bet comes through. Knicks are 2-1. Orlando's 0-4. Julius Randle, 25 points, 12 boards. He looks like the Julius Randle from 2 years ago so far through 3 games. And Paolo Banchero, who might have been the best player on the court last night in defeat. 21 points. He is excellent. Bulls over the Celtics, 120-102. The Bulls 2-2. Boston 3-1. DeMar DeRozan, 25 points in the win. Jason Tatum, 26 and 8 boards in defeat. Rockets over the Jazz, 114-108. As the Rockets get their first win, they're 1-3. The Jazz suffered their first loss. They're 3-1. Kevin Porter Jr., 26 points, 10 boards, and 4 assists. He was excellent. And Jordan Clarkson had 17 for Utah. Grizzlies over the Nets, 134-124. Memphis is 3-1. Brooklyn is 1-2. John Morant, 38 points, 7 assists. He was excellent. Kyrie had 37 and 8 boards in defeat. Spurs over the Timberwolves, 115-106. Again, I avoided Minnesota. This time it was the right call. But I did not go for them again unlike when they played Utah, is what I should say. San Antonio's 3-1, Minnesota's 2-2. Devin Vassell, 23 points, and Karl Anthony Towns, 27 and 11 boards. And the Trailblazers over the Nuggets, 135-110. Portland's 4-0, Denver's 2-2. Damian Lillard, 31 points, 8 assists. Aaron Gordon had 26 in defeat. Only 4 games tonight. First up, 7 o'clock, you have the Pistons at the Wizards. From D.C., the Wizards are 5.5-point favorites in this game. The total 221. That is ridiculously high. I'm taking the Pistons getting the points. They're plus 188 to win outright. I would parlay. I'll throw them in the round robin with a couple of hockey underdogs tonight. But that is an absolute crazy of a line, I think. 7:30 on TNT of the Mavericks at the Pelicans. No Brandon Ingram tonight. Dallas is a 4.5-point favorite. Total 220. Whoa, is that because of no Brandon Ingram? I know Zion's questionable too. But if he's out, then Dallas would be favored. But even without those guys, CJ McCollum can carry that offense by himself. He's done it at times last year. But that's ridiculous that Dallas... It's because of favoritism for Luka. Yeah, Zion questionable. He'd be worth 4.5. So, say if he were to miss tonight's game, this would go to Dallas too. And even that, they still have value. The Pelicans. So, I absolutely love New Orleans tonight. Plus the 4.5 and plus 158 outright. I do like the over too. Next up at 8 o'clock, you have the Clippers at the Thunder from OKC. The Clippers are 9.5-point favorites. Total is 214. I like the Clippers minus the points. I know Paul George isn't playing, but guess who else isn't playing? OKC's best two players in SGA and Josh Giddey. So, give me the Clippers minus 9.5. I think this is a big Kawhi game. And I think that OKC will continue to tank. The tanking for Wembanyama's already started. Like, we've seen it. Charlotte sat LaMelo the one game, but it didn't matter against San Antonio. Indiana's sat Miles Turner that one game. Now we're seeing OKC sit SGA and Giddey. I know some of them probably do have legit injuries, but the conspiracy theories has to be mentioned. And 10 o'clock on TNT have the Warriors at the Suns from Phoenix. The Suns are 2-point favorites, total 225.5. Give me the reigning champs on the road. I'm surprised that they're an underdog here. It's not like Stephen Curry's missing the game. Give me the Warriors getting the points and plus 110 to win outright. I feel pretty good about this pick. And I'm surprised that the Suns are favored in this game. So give me Golden State plus 2, plus 110 to win outright. When are you ever going to get Golden State as a dog? All right, NHL. We'll go over the results from last night and look ahead to some interesting games tonight. Capitals over the Devils 6-3. The number 3 started 2 assists. John Moreno, number 2, started the game with a goal and assist. Nick Jensen, number 1, started the game with the goal and assist. Garrett Hathaway. Washington is 4-3-0. Devils 3-3-0. Senators over the Stars 4-2. Number 3 started the game with the goal. Derek Brassard. Number 2 started the game with the goal. Shane Pinto. And the number 1 started the game with 29 saves on 31 shots. Magnus Hellberg. Ottawa is 4-2-0. Dallas is 4-1-1. Oilers over the Penguins 6-3. The number 3 started game with the goal and assist. Evander Kane. Number 2 started game with the goal and assist. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And the number started game with the goal and 2 assists. Leon Draisaitl. Edmonton is 3-3-0. Pittsburgh is 4-1-1. Tied with Carolina for first in the division. Jets over the Blues 4-0. The number 3 started game with 2 assists. Josh Marcy. Number 2 started game with the goal. Mark Sheffley. Number 1 started game with 25 saves on 25 shots and a shutout. Connor Hellebuck. Winnipeg is 3-3-0. St. Louis suffers their first loss of the year. They're now 3-1-0. Golden Knights over the Maple Leafs 3-1. Big win for Vegas. Number 3 started game with the goal. Nicholas Roy. Number 2 started game with the goal. Chandler Stevenson. And the number 1 started goal with an assist. Phil Kessel. Vegas is 5-2-0 with 10 points. And Toronto drops to 4-3-0. So the most points in the league is Boston and Vegas so far. Boston with the game in hand. And the Hurricanes over the Canucks 3-2 as the Canucks are still winless. Number 3 started the game with an assist, Seth Jarvis. Number 2 started the game with 2 goals, JT Miller. And the number 1 started the game with the goal, Sebastian Aho. Carolina's 4-1-1, 9 points. Vancouver drops to 0-5-2. They have 2 points. Them and Arizona have the least amount of points in the league so far. All right, a big slate tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Stars at the Bruins from Boston. Boston is minus 150. Dallas is plus 125. Over under 6.5. Over is plus 104. Unders minus 128. Dallas plus 1.5 is minus 205. Boston minus 1.5 is plus 160. Tough call. But I kind of do like Dallas here. Plus 125 to win outright. Coyotes, Blue Jackets. Columbus minus 220. Arizona plus 180. Over under 7. Over is plus 114. Unders minus 140. Coyotes plus 1.5 is minus 134. Columbus minus 1.5 is plus 110. For this game, I'm going to go under 1.5 first period total goals at plus 146. Devils, Red Wings. Devils minus 120. Red Wings even money. Over under 7. Overs plus 112. Unders minus 138. Devils minus 1.5 is plus 138. Red Wings plus 1.5 is minus 250. Red Wings killed New Jersey about a week and a half ago. So for this one, I'm going to go with under 1.5 first period total goals plus 140. Wild Canadians. Wild minus 220, Montreal plus 180, over under 7. Overs plus 110, unders minus 134. Wild minus 1.5 is plus 124. Canadians plus 1.5 is minus 152. Full game unders overvalued, so I'll just go. First period result, Minnesota Wild plus 122. The big one, 8 o'clock, ESPN, Avalanche Rangers from the Garden. Each team's minus 110, over under 6.5. Overs minus 112, unders minus 110. Avs minus 1.5 is plus 220. Rangers plus 1.5 is minus 280. So Avs favor on the puck line. Rangers and Avs are a pick at MSG. I'm taking the Rangers at minus 110. Sunday's loss was a trap game looking ahead to this one. I feel like this is a big statement game for the Rangers, just like the opener was against Tampa 2 weeks ago. So I think that they're going to get it done again here. Give me the minus 110 with the New York Rangers at home against Colorado. 8:30, Panthers, Blackhawks. Panthers minus 245, Chicago plus 195, over under 7. Overs plus 114, unders minus 140. Panthers minus 1.5 is plus 102. Blackhawks plus 1.5 is minus 124. I'm going with the Panthers minus 1.5 at plus 102. 9 o'clock, Penguins, Flames. Flames minus 184, Pittsburgh plus 150, over under 6.5, overs minus 130, unders plus 106. Pittsburgh plus 1.5 is minus 168. Calgary minus 1.5 is plus 136. I kind of like the under. I think it's going to be a well played game under the total. 10 o'clock, Sabres, Kraken. The Kraken are minus 128, Sabres plus 106, over under 7, overs plus 116, unders minus 142. Sabres plus 1.5 is minus 230, Kraken minus 1.5 is plus 184. Let's go with Buffalo plus 106. I like the good vibes from there so far. Lightning Kings from Crypto.com. Lightning minus 128, Kings plus 106, over under 6.5, overs minus 108, unders minus 112. Lightning minus 1.5 is plus 190, Kings plus 1.5 is minus 245. I'm going with the under. And on ESPN tonight, you have the Golden Knights at the Sharks. This game should not be on ESPN. I think the ESPN game should be Tampa Kings at night. Vegas is minus 188, Sharks are plus 155, over under 6.5, overs plus 102, unders minus 124. Vegas minus 1.5 is plus 142. Sharks plus 1.5 is minus 176. I like the over. I think Vegas is going to score a lot of goals tonight. So over 6.5 at plus 102. Alrighty, now we'll move on to my NFL power rankings for week number 8 coming up. So on this rendition of the Power Rankings, I'm going to talk about my biggest takeaway from each team. Number 32 is the Houston Texans. They are 1-4-1, coming off the loss at the Raiders. Next up for them, they are home for Tennessee. My biggest takeaway for them is what I've said all along. Davis Mills is not the answer. He's just not. He's a low ceiling. And to me, the guys around him aren't helping him either. Number 31 is the Detroit Lions. They are coming off a loss at the Dallas Cowboys. And they are 1-5 on the year coming up for them. They are home for the Dolphins. My biggest takeaway for them, the Hard Knocks jinx lives on. I'm telling you, don't do Hard Knocks before the season. You're going to be a jinx. Number 30 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are 2-5 on the season, coming off the loss in Miami. Next up for them, they're at Philly. My biggest takeaway from them, Kenny Pickett has real poise. I like that he's aggressive, but I got to admit, Sunday night, that interception that ended the game was a combination of him making a rookie mistake and that he didn't want to run because he was concussed the prior week. Number 29 is the Cleveland Browns. They are 2-5 on the season, coming off a loss at the Ravens. Coming up for them Monday Night Football at home against the Bengals. My biggest takeaway is that Kevin Stefanski is a sneaky possibility of being the next coach fired. If they lose the Bengal game on national television, I wouldn't be shocked in a week from tomorrow's podcast, the November 2nd podcast. We're talking about Kevin Stefanski being out of a job. Number 28 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are 2-5 on the season, coming off the loss against the Giants. Coming up for them, London against the Broncos. My biggest takeaway, they got our hopes up a month ago. This team's not good. We fell for one great game by Trevor Lawrence and took advantage of Justin Herbert being hurt. And they get destroyed by the Eagles, and now they are exposed. Number 27 is the Denver Broncos. They're 2-5 on the season, coming off the home loss against the Jets. And coming up, they have the London game against the Jaguars. My biggest takeaway for them is that Nathaniel Hackett will be one and done. I really do. I don't care that Russell Wilson is dealing with the injuries right now. But I really think that he's out after the season. This ownership that's taken over did not hire him. Number 26, the New Orleans Saints. They are also 2-5 on the season, coming off the Thursday night loss against the Cardinals. Coming up for them, they host the Raiders. My biggest takeaway for them is that the quarterback position has held this team back. If it wasn't for the 2 pick sixes, New Orleans wins that game. Fair and square. Andy Dalton nor Jameis Winston are the answer. Number 25 is the Carolina Panthers. They are 2-4 on the season. Coming off the win over the Bucks. Next up for them, they're at Atlanta. My biggest takeaway for them is that Baker Mayfield was a complete miss on their end. They took a chance, and it didn't work out. To me, he's a sunk cost. Number 24 is the Chicago Bears. They're 3-4 of the season. Straight off last night's win over the Patriots. Coming up for them, they're at Dallas. And My biggest takeaway for them is don't give up on Justin Fields just yet. I think that last night was one of his better performances. I just feel that the talent around him is so poor that's unfair to judge him. Number 23 is the Atlanta Falcons. They are 3-4 on the season, coming off the loss at Cincinnati. Coming up for them, they host the Panthers. My biggest takeaway for them is that they need to go to Desmond Ridder, sans some offensive success throughout the season. I just don't think that Marcus Mariota has a high ceiling. He's just mediocre. I don't think is as bad as, say, Mitch Trubisky. But I think that the Falcons would have a higher ceiling if Desmond Ridder was their quarterback. Number 22 is the Arizona Cardinals. They are 3-4 on the season, coming off the Thursday night win over the New Orleans Saints. My biggest takeaway for them is that no DeAndre Hopkins, that suspension could cost them a playoff spot. If they don't make the playoffs, they can look back on that and say, okay, this is why we missed the playoffs. If he plays in that Eagles game, they probably win. I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs, but if they don't make it, they can look to that suspension. Number 21 is the Las Vegas Raiders. They are 2-4 on the season, coming off the big win at home over the Texans. Coming up for them, they are at New Orleans. My biggest takeaway is that they can be the hot second half team that sneaks into the postseason. We see that all the time in the NFL. And I think that this could be the Raiders. I really do. Their schedule gets easier. Denver's not what we thought. The Chargers have some injuries. There's issues all around the AFC. More issues than we thought, especially in the South and the Raiders' own division. So this, to me, would be my pick for the team with the losing record to make the playoffs, or to turn their record into a winning record. Number 20 is the New England Patriots. They're 3-4 in the season, coming off the loss last night to the Bears. Next up for them, at the Jets. My biggest takeaway is that the quarterback controversy is already derailing them. Derailed them last night, obviously. Mac was bad, and they go right to Zappy. And Zappy was also bad. And there are people on the team telling the media that the quarterback change caught them by surprise last night. Number 20 is number 19 is the Green Bay Packers. They're 3-4 in the year, coming off the loss against the Commanders. Coming up for them, they're at the Bills on a Sunday night. Oof. My biggest takeaway, Panic. Panic! It is time to panic, Aaron Rodgers. And you guys know the infamous RELAX, relax. And that's how I came up with PANIC, panic. This team's just bad. The loss of Devontae Adams was the biggest loss any team suffered in the offseason by a mile. It's not even close. The Chiefs are having success without Tyreek Hill. The Packers are 0 without Devontae Adams. Their defense hasn't performed to expectations either. And Matt LaFleur is definitely going to be fired at some point. Number 18 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're also 3-4 on the season, coming off a bad loss at Carolina. Coming up for them, they are home on Thursday night against the Ravens. My biggest takeaway for the Bucs is that Brady's home life is affecting the entire team, let alone Tom. I'm sorry. This is a distraction that's not going to go away. Tom, I heard might actually have already gotten divorced. And it's affecting him and his team's performance. Number 17 is the Washington Commanders. Yes, the Commanders. They're 3-4 on the season, coming off the win over Green Bay, coming up for them, a winnable game at Indianapolis. My biggest takeaway for them is that they are the best last place team in the league. Yes, it's them, not Denver. They have a solid defense. They have some nice pieces offensively. Getting Brian Robinson back really has turned out to be a big difference in their offense. And if they can get Chase Young back, then look out. The NFC East is the NFC Beast, not the NFC Least. But I could look really foolish with this Commanders ranking 2 weeks from now, though. Number 16 is the Indianapolis Colts. They are 3-1 on the year, coming off the loss at the Titans. Coming up for them next. They host the Commanders. And my biggest takeaway just came recently is that the quarterback's benching, I think Frank Reich did that to save his job. Because if he stuck with Ryan, then he probably would have been fired, but he is probably still going to get fired anyway. But I think it was to save his job for the time being. Number 15 is the Los Angeles Rams. They are 3-3 on the season, coming off a bye. Before that, they beat the Panthers at home. And coming up for them, they host the 49ers. My biggest takeaway for them is that we undersold the free agent losses of Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller. We all thought that Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner were going to be tremendous for them. Maybe they do pay off in the end, but they were a better team with Odell and Von Miller than they are now with Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner. Number 14 is the New York Football Jets. They are 5-2 on the season. The reason why I dropped them out of the top 10, or they're not in the top 10, is because of the unfortunate injuries to Elijah Vera Tucker and Breece Hall, who were both lost for the season, which are brutal losses for the Jets. They're coming off the win at Denver. Coming up for them, they host the Patriots. My biggest takeaway is that Sauce Gardner is their best cornerback since Darrelle Revis. Like, he is so freaking good. He makes plays every game. He's like a lock for Defensive Rookie of the Year, barring injury. He's so freaking good. Number 13 is the Miami Dolphins. They are 4-3 on the year, coming off the Sunday night win over the Steelers. Coming up for them, they're at the Lions. My biggest takeaway for them is that their defense might be legit good. They gave up 40 to the Jets, but I feel like the Jets kind of just laid it to them as that game went on. And I think this defense is a unit that we undersold before the year, even though Byron Jones is still out with an injury. Number 12 is the Seattle Seahawks. They're 4-3 on the season, coming off the win at the Chargers. Coming up for them, they are home against the Giants. And my biggest takeaway for them is that the Ewing theory is definitely real here. They're a better team without Russell Wilson. I think we need to remove whether you want a title or not. Or maybe if you haven't won a title in over between 3 and 5 years, or maybe 3 years is accurate, and remove them from the team you haven't won with, or like or they haven't won in 3 years, then you're qualified for Ewing theory, which Bill Simmons should change that rule because Russell Wilson definitely qualifies right now for the Seahawks. They're playing so well right now. Geno Smith's having the year of his life. And Pete Carroll has to be up there for Coach of the Year. Number 11 is the Tennessee Titans. They're 4-2 on the year, coming off the home win over the Colts. Next up for them, they're at the Texans. My biggest takeaway for them is so much for thinking they were bad. Anybody who gets crushed by Buffalo might be just because Buffalo is trying to pour it on everyone. Maybe that's just a referendum on Buffalo and less about the team that's just getting destroyed by Buffalo. But yeah, this Tennessee team might not be terrible. And they might not be bad either. Number 10 is the San Francisco 49ers. They are 4-3 on the year. Or no, 3-4. They're 3-4 on the year. Coming off the hideous loss to the Chiefs. The reason why I have them in the top 10 is because I still believe in them. And I really don't believe in Tennessee or Seattle as much. Or even the Dolphins or now the Jets without those with the injuries now. Coming up for them at the Rams. My biggest takeaway is that the team was right about Jimmy G, but were smart to keep him. They're right. They know that Jimmy G doesn't have the upside to carry them back to a Super Bowl, let alone win one. But they're also smart to keep him because of the injury to Trey Lance. Number 9 is the Los Angeles Chargers. They're 4-3 on the year, coming off the loss at home against Seattle. Coming up for them is their bye. My biggest takeaway is that Justin Herbert is still clearly not right from that injury. That injury might derail this team more than the guys they lost. And Herbert is playing. So just don't undersell that injury. Number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. They're 4-3 on the year, coming off the big home win over the Browns. Coming up for them, they play Thursday night at Tampa Bay. My biggest takeaway for Baltimore is that John Harbaugh has had some of the same issues as the last 2 years. They have trouble closing out games. John makes weird coaching decisions. And I don't know if he's the right guy for them long term. Maybe they do need to part ways with John when it's all said and done. Number 7 is the Cincinnati Bengals. They're 4-3 on the year, coming off the win over Atlanta. They were awesome in that game. And my biggest, I know, by the way, next week they are at Cleveland on Monday Night Football. My biggest takeaway for Cincinnati is that we all underestimated Joe Burrow getting his appendix removed. He missed a lot of time in training camp. He missed the preseason. And we're just wondering if Cincinnati's run last year was a fluke and how their offensive line wasn't all that good to begin with. But no, I think we undersold that appendix thing with Burrow. Number 6 is the New York Football Giants. They are 6-1 on the season, coming off the win at Jacksonville. Coming up for them, they're at Seattle. They're out of the top 5 because of some of the injuries that they're dealing with right now. And my biggest takeaway from the Giants is that Daniel Jones is the most improved quarterback in all of football. I thought he was a bottom 5 quarterback potentially before the year. He's played like a top 10 quarterback. Amazingly enough. His decision-making's better. He Doesn't have a lot around him, which is crazy. Has a ton of injuries. Have the Giants wide receiver and tight end corps. But without those guys and him performing well, makes me feel that he's the league's most improved quarterback. And it's a big reason why they are 6-1. And obviously Brian Daboll is day man. Number 5 is the Minnesota Vikings. They are 5-1 on the season, coming off the bye. Before that, they beat the Dolphins in Miami. Coming up for them, they host the Cardinals. So my biggest takeaway for them, their biggest weakness might be primetime Kirk Cousins. It cost them that Eagles game, or else, who knows, maybe they win that game. But primetime Kirk might be their biggest weakness. Number 4 is the Dallas Cowboys. They are 5-2 on the year, coming off the win over the Lions. Coming up for them, they host the Bears. My biggest takeaway from them is that the Cowboys possess the best unit in the NFC East. That is their defense. Their defense is so good. Micah Parsons is probably the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year at this point. He's just amazing. And I don't know if it's going to matter about the quarterback as far as the regular season is concerned. And that Cowboys defense is allowing Dak to take his time and still win games. Number 3 is the Kansas City Chiefs. They are 4-3 on the season. Or 5-2. So they lost to the Bills. They lost to the Colts, and I feel like they lost to somebody else. Well, they barely beat the Raiders. So they beat the Raiders, the Cards, the Bucks, the Chargers, and the 49ers. So they're actually 5-2. That's my mistake about Kansas City. I don't know why I thought they were 4-3, but they're 5-2. Coming off the big win over the Niners. Coming up for them is their bye, which sucks. They're so fun to watch. But my biggest takeaway from them is that they always stick it to us after a loss. I feel like every time Patrick Mahomes loses, the next week he goes out there and sticks it to the opponent. We saw them stick it to the Bucs after the Colts lost, and we saw them stick it to the Niners after the Bills loss. Number 2 is the Buffalo Bills. They are 5-1 on the year, coming off their bye. The week before that, they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. Coming up for them, they host the Packers on Sunday Night Football. My biggest takeaway for them is that they're every bit as advertised. They were the Super Bowl favorites for a reason. And they looked every bit as advertised. And if Miami did the right thing and pulled Tua Tagovailoa when he initially got concussed, this Bills team would be undefeated. And number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. They are 6-0 on the year, coming off their bye. The week prior, they beat the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Coming up for them, they host the Steelers. And my biggest takeaway is that this is the team to beat in the NFC, clearly. And I think they could potentially become the team to beat in the league if they make a trade. But the question is, where can they upgrade? Pass rush for sure. Secondary for sure, especially the cornerback position. They can upgrade at the third wide receiver spot. I think their offensive line's terrific. They have a great tight end. They have solid running backs. So I think they could be a trade away from being the team to beat in the entire league over the Bills and over the Chiefs. So there you have it for the power rankings for the week. Now we'll move on to Dancing with the Stars. Sorry, guys, that was a pretty long power ranking segment. But we were due for a big power ranking segment on the show. Dancing with the Stars last night. It was Michael Bublé night. And Bublé was a guest judge and performed Sway with the dance troupe and Higher with Derek Hough and his fiancée Haley Herbert, along with the pros. So, Shangela and Gleb went first. They did a tango dance to Hollywood and got a 45. Trevor and Emma did a foxtrot to Come Fly With Me and got a 42. Gabby and Val did a rumba dance to Home and got a 46. Vinny and Coco did a cha-cha-cha to Save the Last Dance for Me and got a 36. Jordan and Brandon did a foxtrot to You Make Me Feel So Young and got a 43. Charlie and Mark did a foxtrot to Fever and got a 50. Heidi and Artem did a samba to It Had Better Be Tonight and got a 46. Wayne and Whitney did a quick step to I Get a Kick Out of You and got a 44. Jesse and Alan did a salsa to Come Dance With Me and got a 41. And Daniel and Britt did a foxtrot to Feeling Good and got a 43. Votes to save. Bruno voted to save Trevor and Emma. Derek voted to save Jesse and Alan. Carrie Ann and voted to save Trevor and Emma. And Len voted to save Trevor and Emma. And so Jesse and Alan go home. They were eliminated. Trevor and Emma were in the bottom two. I am appalled that the favoritism that Vinny and Coco get week in and week out on the show. They literally have the worst scores every week, and they're still on this freaking show. Vote them off already. They're bad. Jesse and Alan probably should have been in the bottom two, but they didn't deserve to go home. And I think that Trevor and Emma should have been safe. And Charlie and Mark are the judges' favorites for sure. They get perfect scores week in and week out. I guess having the last name D'Amelio might have something to do with that. So next week is a Halloween night, one unlearned dance, and then a team dance. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. All right, we'll move on to news and notes now. For the day, breaking news coming down from NBC. Brittany Griner, Russian court denies her appeal and upholds her 9-year prison sentence on drug charges, and she is now expected to be moved to a penal colony. This is very sad. So this is going to go on and on and on, and this is not a good look, honestly, for Joe Biden and his administration as well. I think that Griner should be home and probably serving jail time here in the U.S. rather in Russia. And it's just brutal, and I feel sorry for her teammates. And I feel sorry for the WNBA family. And it's just very, very sad. And I really hope that this isn't over yet either. Because it's just very sad, and she did something that is illegal in Russia, But I think that it's just a sad situation. And I feel bad. So I just had to get that out of the way. We'll do Stu basketball first. Then Ben Simmons has more fouls than points this season. Has fouled out 2 of the 3 games he's played in. Yikes. I know it's very early, but Jesus. The Lakers and the Jazz may revisit Russell Westbrook talks as they could have talks with Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gay possibly involved. That's according to the Ringer. That's just classic Lakers overreaction. Brandon Ingram has been placed in the NBA's concussion protocol. That is not good news for Ingram and the Pelicans. Hopefully he's back soon. And then the AP preseason All-American team came out with the season starting 13 days from now. So the AP All-American list: Oscar Tshiebwe of Kentucky, Drew Timme of Gonzaga, Armando Bacot of North Carolina, Marcus Sasser of Houston, and Trace Jackson Davis of Indiana. I think Trace Jackson Davis is the most overrated player in college basketball. He was hyped out to be like this great prospect. He's been zero. He hasn't been anything close. His lack of development has held this program back. And to me, he just keeps getting favoritism and free passes year in and year out for these voters for no reason. And I think everybody else, especially the first 3 names on the list, are absolutely deserving of being preseason All-Americans. Bacot carried Carolina to the title game. Timme has been on great Gonzaga teams, and Tshiebwe is the reigning National Player of the Year. So those 3 absolutely belong. And then Houston's been a good program the last several years, so good for Sasser. All right, now move on to football. Bill Belichick doesn't name starter for next week against the Jets, as he won't answer when asked who's the Patriots' starting quarterback is. And I alluded to how the players think it's a problem already. Jacoby Myers said it was tough as a man to see. It's kind of the treatment as Mac Jones was pulled amid Zappy chants. Yeah, so we'll see what happens here. And there was Zappy chants. So we talked about Breece Hall tearing his ACL and being out for the season for the Jets, which is absolutely brutal. And Elijah Vera Tucker's out for the season, too, for the Jets with a triceps injury, which is very sad. 2 very important players for them this year out for the season. And that's why I punished them in my power rankings. I mean, it's not because of their performance. Injuries factor into this as well. They're not as good as they were 24 or 48 hours ago. They're just not with those injuries. And then the Jets make the trade for James Robinson to replace Breece Hall. They gave up a conditional 6, which could end up a 5th. It's an excellent trade for the Jets, in my opinion. And then now coming down, Belichick. Again, that's a hypothetical question. Let's see where that is and what that is. In his morning press conference this morning. So Matt Ryan was benched for Sam Ellinger after Matt Ryan's shoulder injury. And he was getting benched whether he was hurt or not, which is crazy. What a waste of a trade for the Colts, man. And good on Atlanta for getting value for Matt Ryan. Chargers corner J.C. Jackson out for the season with a knee injury. Just absolutely brutal. This is the year from hell for the Chargers. I wouldn't be shocked if they missed the postseason after yours truly picked them to win the Super Bowl. I need to stop being teams' jinxes, for crying out loud. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams will miss some time following a high ankle sprain against the Seahawks. That's not good news for them either. Browns tight end David Njoku out 2 to 5 weeks with a high ankle sprain. It will not require surgery. So luckily, no surgery. DK Metcalf won't need surgery, but the timeline is TBD. The NFL is reviewing an incident involving 2 officials allegedly asking Mike Evans for an autograph, which is so weird. When do you ever see this? Giants rookie offensive tackle Evan Neal out 3 to 4 weeks with an MCL injury after being carted off against the Jaguars. Looked worse, and he's out a month. That's a brutal loss for the Giants. Another big loss for them is that the tight end Bellinger will undergo surgery on his fractured eye socket. That is a brutal loss for the Giants. He has been a good pass catcher and producer for them so far this year. And 49ers fullback Kyle Juszczyk is expected to miss Sunday's game at the Rams after having finger surgery. So he'll be back sooner rather than later. That's a big injury, at least for this week's game. Rangers forward Philip Hedl out the next 4 games with a concussion. Not great. Hopefully he's back soon. Sidney Crosby ties Adam Oates for 18th overall on NHL's all-time points list with 1,420 last night in defeat to the Oilers. And Phil Kessel plays in his 989th consecutive game after his first shift with the Golden Knights, as he ties the Iron Man streak. And then some baseball stuff. Aaron Judge comments on his free agency. He hasn't thought about it after the loss to the Astros. We've got time to figure it out, he says. Does he say we in terms of him and his agent? Or we as in him and the Yankees? I think it's him and his agent. And the Dodgers are reportedly serious on Judge, as the team is willing to let Trey Turner walk and move Mookie Betts to second to land him. The Dodgers just do it time and time again. Or do they do this to drive prices up? You saw they drove the price up for Juan Soto. They actually pulled it off with Turner and Scherzer, which, looking back, might go down as one of that regime in LA's worst trades, because if they let Turner walk and Scherzer left for the Mets and those guys from Washington become real players, then that's a lost trade for that Dodgers front office. But we'll see how real this is. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. Yesterday's was a winner with the Knicks minus the points against the Magic. There's a couple I like, but I don't know if I like anything more than I liked that Knicks play last night. But for my best bet for tonight, I don't feel good about it. All the Suns went down to 1.5 against the Warriors. I wasn't touching that game. Detroit went down to 5 against the Wiz. I want to take the Pelicans for best bet, but no Ingram, so I'm going to stay away. But 2 big absences compared to 1 for the Clippers is going to make a big difference. So I'm going to lay the points with the Clippers. Only a half unit. -110, -9.5 against the Thunder. All right, so that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything and looking at everything tomorrow. We have Masked Singer and Survivor tomorrow as well. We have some golf to talk about as well, and news and notes and best bet. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.